Hello, friends. Well, President Obozo finally did it. He admitted something truthfully. He admitted that marijuana is safer than alcohol. So, let's ask ourselves a question. If he admits that marijuana is safer than alcohol, which is still legal for the time being, okay, then why did his cabinet have to do basically a clean up on aisle one, quote unquote, sorry, and go ahead and say, well, that's not what the president meant. Marijuana is still a Schedule 1 drug. It's still the worst drug imaginable. Why did the government have to backtrack and say all that? You want to know the real reason? For those of you who aren't informed, it all started back in the 1930s when hemp, industrial hemp, was going to replace wood as a cheaper source of paper, a faster source of making paper, and a more efficient source of making paper. So what happened? Hemp was also due to replace nylon as a source of making a stronger, more reliable rope. Okay, so what really happened? Excuse me, 1 second. Okay, back to what I was saying. What really happened? Okay, so along comes this guy named DuPont, who was a rope maker, who joined in with his buddy, timber and paper mogul, William Randolph Hearst. Okay, these two get together, they start conspiring. Well, what are we going to do to avoid losing a bunch of money? So they start conspiring together and blah, 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 and all that. And so what happens, okay? Hearst and DuPont, they get their buddy up in Washington, D.C., Harry J. Anslinger, guy working for the Justice Department, to help them. And that was really America's government's first big business bailout. They passed a law against marijuana, known as the Marijuana Tax Stamp Act, which was basically an entrapment law because they told people in order to possess marijuana, you had to have a tax stamp. But in order to get this tax stamp, you had to come to Washington, D.C. and bring the marijuana with you. So, okay, you had to bring the marijuana with you to D.C. Okay, but the minute you got to D.C. with the marijuana in hand without a tax stamp, you were already in violation of the Tax Stamp Act and arrested. The first man, I believe, was arrested for 4 grams of marijuana because he wanted a tax stamp for 4 grams, and I believe that's what he was arrested for, 4 grams of marijuana, like a little over what we call an eighth. Okay, so it goes on. This law remains in effect for a long time, till the early 1960s, when the ACLU takes a look at it and realizes that it's a completely unconstitutional law, and so they fight it in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules on their side. Boom. Pot's legal for a little while here again. What does it happen? It sparks the hippie movement. Since pot was legal, everybody was smoking it, and it started the hippie movement. Now, along with the movement, though, these hippies were protesting things. War, the draft, inequality for races, inequality for sexes. They were protesting. They realized that once people started smoking pot and waking up, that they got very political and wanted to protest the government being tyrannical. So, what happened? Along comes Tricky Dick Nixon, who starts the phony war on drugs, making pot a Schedule 1 narcotic, making it like extremely the worst drug you can on a federal level. He puts it right up there above cocaine. Cocaine is Schedule 2. Go figure that one. Anywho, so along along comes a new law, making pot illegal once again, but making it very harsh sentencing for very small amounts. Back in the 1960s, late 60s, right after Nixon took over and got that drug thing passed, a man named John Sinclair was arrested for possession of 2 joints. About that much pot, right there. 2 joints worth. Okay? He was given 10 years in prison for 2 joints. The laws were a zero tolerance and they were very harsh. ACLU fought again and got those changed in some states, not all. Some states are still hardcore. In Texas, you can get 99 years for a seed if they want to do that to you. If they want to screw you over like that. According to their law books in Texas, you can still get 99 years for possession of 1 seed. So anyway, so we get to today. Along comes Obozo, says marijuana is safer than alcohol, and our government has to step in and say, oh, no, it's not, because that's not the lies and bullshit that they've been telling people for like 70 years or more. For more than 70 years now. The lies and bullshit they've been telling people, they would rather stick to a lie than reveal the truth. And why? Because they know that if every state was to legalize marijuana, people would wake up, become more political, and we would have a revolution. Our founding fathers were hemp growers and hemp smokers. They grew cannabis and smoked it. So, that's it. Marijuana is safer than alcohol. Don't believe that bullshit that it isn't. The illegalization of marijuana and keeping it illegal on a federal level is nothing more than more propaganda to bring in the New World Order. Make people obey, fall in line, make them always frigging do what their big brother government says, because we're really looking out for your best interest, quote unquote, from Big Brother. We know they're not. They're not looking out for our best interest at all. They want to take away all our civil liberties. They want to strip us of our freedoms. And if they can, they would round the poorest of us up and put us in fucking FEMA camps and put us in forced slave labor. There you go, buddies. That's all there is to it. Now, you can all put that in your pipe and smoke it.